The stars were unusually quiet that night. The endless expanse of space stretched like a black ocean, dotted with distant lights that flickered like tiny candles. Commander Elias Trent stood on the observation deck of the Aurora's dawn, staring out into the void. His hands gripped the railing tightly, knuckles white, though outwardly he appeared calm. There was a feeling in the air that he couldn't quite name, a subtle tension that whispered danger before it arrived. "Anything on the scanners, Lieutenant?" he asked, turning to the young officer beside him. Lieutenant Mara Voss shook her head, her dark hair falling into her eyes. "Nothing unusual, sir. All systems normal. No movement in the nearby sectors." Elias nodded but didn't relax. He had learned long ago that silence in space rarely meant peace. It was often the eye of a storm. Below deck, the crew moved with their usual efficiency, unaware of the unease pressing against the walls of the ship. Engineers checked power conduits and recalibrated shields. Navigators adjusted trajectories by fractions of a degree, eyes sharp on glowing displays. It all seemed ordinary, mundane even, but Elias knew better. He remembered the warnings. Earth Command had been clear. Stay alert. Humanity is not alone, and the universe does not wait. It sounded almost like a threat, and sometimes, late at night, he wondered if it was. The Aurora's dawn had been traveling for weeks through the uncharted sectors beyond the Orion Belt. The mission was simple on paper: explore, report, survive. In reality, it was anything but simple. There were rumors among the crew of strange signals, bursts of energy that defied normal patterns, fleeting shadows moving across sectors where nothing should exist. Most dismissed them as sensor glitches or stress-induced hallucinations. But Elias had seen enough anomalies to know that nature, or something else, was always more creative than humans could imagine. A soft chime broke the silence, drawing Elias's attention back to the observation deck. The main display flickered, highlighting a point in the distance. He leaned closer, narrowing his eyes. "What is it?" Mara asked, following his gaze. "Not sure yet," Elias replied. "It's something. Small, moving too fast to track for long." The object disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving only the faintest trace on the scanner. The crew would have called it a false alarm, but Elias knew better. He could feel it in his chest. The calm was ending. He turned from the display and walked to the ship's captain's chair, his mind racing. Humanity had ventured far from Earth, but in the darkness of space, distance offered no safety. Whatever was out there didn't care about borders, treaties, or agreements. It only cared about survival, and sometimes destruction. The crew began to sense the shift, too. Conversations dropped to whispers. Eyes darted to corners and shadows, expecting the unusual, the impossible. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable, but in the confined corridors of a spaceship, tension spreads like wildfire. Elias called the bridge to order. "All officers, report to stations. Prepare for anomalies. Shields up, weapons standby." His voice was steady, but it carried an edge that made the crew straighten instinctively. In the mess hall, technicians paused mid-step. Eating utensils froze in the air. The hum of machinery seemed louder somehow, a low, vibrating warning that something was approaching. The universe had a way of testing patience, and now it was testing theirs. Outside the ship, the void remained deceptively calm. Stars twinkled in patterns that promised nothing, hiding dangers that were impossible to predict. Somewhere in that darkness, something watched. Perhaps it had been observing for days, weeks, or even longer. Perhaps it knew the crew's every routine, and when it decided the time was right, it would strike. Elias exhaled slowly, eyes scanning the instruments. Every instinct screamed that the coming hours would be critical. The calm before the storm had a name in every human heart: fear. And it was creeping into the ship like a living thing. He knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had faced challenges before, but out here, the rules were different. Out here, survival was earned in seconds, decisions mattered more than training, and courage would be tested in ways no one could predict. A sudden jolt shook the Aurora's dawn, throwing Mara against a railing. Alarms blared, red lights flashing across the bridge. "Report." Elias barked. Sensors screamed in warning. Something massive had entered the sector, a shadow larger than any ship they had ever encountered. Its shape was unlike anything known, jagged and fluid, moving with purpose. Elias's heart pounded, but he stood taller, refusing to show panic. "This is it," he muttered. "The storm has arrived." And somewhere in the darkness, the universe watched, patient and unyielding, as humanity prepared to meet it head-on. The calm had ended. The alarm screamed like a warning siren in Elias's ears. Red lights bathed the bridge in a harsh glow, casting long shadows across the tense faces of the crew. The unknown object loomed on the sensors, massive and fast, defying all known physics. It moved like it had purpose, intelligence, and intent. "Sir, it's not just a ship," Mara said, her voice tight. "It's alive." Elias's jaw tightened. He had faced hostile aliens before, rogue drones, automated warships, even scavenger fleets, but nothing like this. The shape on the scanner seemed to pulse, edges shifting in ways that made his mind struggle to comprehend it. "Options?" he asked, gripping the console. The communications officer shook his head. "No response on any frequency, sir. Attempts blocked. It's interfering with our signals. Shields to maximum. Prepare weapons. Keep a steady course," Elias ordered. His voice was calm, but inside, adrenaline surged. Out here, every second counted. One wrong move, one hesitation, and the ship and its crew would be lost. Outside the viewport, the void seemed to ripple. Stars blurred as a massive entity drew closer, a dark silhouette against the light of distant suns. Its form was jagged, shifting like liquid metal, yet somehow organic. Every instinct in Elias's body screamed danger. The crew worked with precision, their training kicking in despite the fear crawling along their spines. Engineers rerouted power to the shields, ensuring maximum strength. Weapon systems calibrated automatically, missiles and energy cannons glowing faintly, ready to fire. Then it struck. Not physically, not yet, but with a wave of energy that made the ship shudder violently. Lights flickered, instruments sparking and gravity wavered. Crew members stumbled, clutching consoles for support. The unknown force pushed against the Aurora's dawn as if testing it, probing for weaknesses. Elias gritted his teeth. Brace for impact. Hold steady. Mara's eyes widened as she monitored the creature's energy signatures. "It's scanning us or probing. It knows what we are. It knows our strengths and weaknesses." A silence followed, heavy and suffocating, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. The entity hung there, immense and patient, waiting or calculating. Every second stretched into eternity. "Captain, I've never seen anything like this," the weapons officer whispered. "It's intelligent, not just a predator. It's strategic." Elias nodded slowly, a grim determination settling over him. "Then we'll need to be smarter, faster. Humanity doesn't back down, no matter what's out there." The crew felt it too, the quiet, electric tension that hinted at the storm about to break. Humans had conquered worlds, sailed the void, and built machines faster than thought itself. Yet here, in this cold, unfeeling dark, they were small, fragile, but not powerless. Suddenly, the entity pulsed with a brilliant light, radiating energy that struck the ship's shields with a violent pulse. The bridge shook violently. Warning screamed across every display. Sparks flew from consoles and alarms howled. Elias held his ground. "All hands, stay focused. This is what we trained for. Humanity survives, even in the impossible." Outside, the void remained calm to the untrained eye. But Elias knew better. Something massive, something ancient, was studying them, testing their limits. And it was patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. The crew rallied. Each member knew their role. Every hand on the ship mattered. Fear existed, yes, but determination burned brighter. Humanity's strength wasn't just in technology, weapons, or numbers. It was in their will to survive, to adapt, to fight even when the odds were impossible. The unknown shadow pulsed again, larger this time, surrounding the ship with a glowing field of energy that distorted reality itself. Space bent. Time seemed to twist, and the Aurora's dawn trembled as though caught in the grip of a god. Elias stood tall, his eyes fixed on the entity beyond the viewport. We will not run. We will not hide. Humanity will stand, and humanity will fight. For the first time, the crew felt the storm not as fear, but as purpose. The calm was gone. The shadow had arrived. And in its darkness, humanity's courage would be tested like never before. The Aurora's dawn shuddered again, and then silence. A silence heavy with promise and danger. And somewhere in that void, the Watcher waited, curious. Humanity had finally noticed it. The silence didn't last long. A low, vibrating hum filled the Aurora's dawn, reverberating through every corridor, every deck, every nervous heartbeat. The unknown entity was no longer just observing. It was moving, slowly at first, then faster, drawing closer like a predator circling its prey. Elias clenched his fists. "Report," he barked. Lieutenant Mara's fingers flew across the console. "It's accelerating, sir. The sensors can barely track it. Its trajectory intersects ours. Collision course. Estimated impact in 5 minutes." The crew froze. 5 minutes. Enough time to prepare, but not enough to panic. Shields at maximum. Weapons online. All stations report ready. Elias commanded. His voice carried the calm authority of a man who had faced countless dangers, but inside, his heart pounded. Outside the viewport, the shadow loomed larger, its jagged edges twisting, pulsing with an eerie glow. Space itself seemed to bend around it. It was massive, far larger than the Aurora's dawn, and it moved with precision, intent, intelligence. The communications officer tried one last time. Attempting hailing frequency. Blocked, sir. All signals jammed. It won't respond. Elias gritted his teeth. Then it speaks in its own way. We respond in ours. The ship shuddered as the entity emitted a wave of energy, testing the shields. Sparks flew across the bridge. Consoles flickered. Gravity shifted violently, sending crew members stumbling. It was a warning or a test, but Elias refused to back down. "Steady. Adjust vector by 2 degrees starboard. Shield absorbing hold." The crew executed orders with precision. Humans had survived countless wars, natural disasters, and the endless vacuum of space itself. Their strength wasn't in size or firepower. It was in adaptability, in thinking faster than the danger chasing them. Suddenly, the entity emitted another pulse, this time more focused. A crackling beam of energy shot toward the Aurora's dawn, slamming into the shields. Red warning lights flashed violently. The ship groaned under the strain. "Divert all power to front shields. Weapons, prepare countermeasure." Elias ordered. Mara's eyes widened. "Captain, the energy, it's adapting. Every shield adjustment we make, it finds a weakness." Elias's jaw tightened. This was no ordinary foe. This was a force of nature. Or worse, a predator with intelligence rivaling humanity itself. But humans didn't give up. Not now. Not ever. The crew worked feverishly. Engineers rerouted power. Weapons officers recalibrated. And navigators calculated evasive maneuvers. Every second mattered. Every decision could mean survival. Or death. Outside, the shadow loomed closer, a twisting, living nightmare of energy and matter. Then, without warning, it shifted direction, diving toward the ship. Time seemed to stretch. 5 minutes, now 1. Elias stood, gripping the chair, braced for impact. And remember, humanity survives because we refuse to break. The Aurora's dawn lurched violently as the entity's mass collided with the ship's shields. The sound was deafening, a mix of metal tearing, alarm screaming, and energy crackling. Crew members were thrown against walls, consoles sparking dangerously. But the ship held. The shields glowed, straining against the impossible. And the humans aboard, trained, determined, unbroken, kept fighting. Countermeasures activated, the weapons officer shouted. Energy beams fired, striking the entity. It pulsed, shifted, but did not retreat. It was learning, adapting, challenging. Elias's eyes met Mara's. It thinks it's smarter than us. Let's show it why humanity never gives up. In that moment, the storm became clear. This wasn't just an attack. It was a test. And humans, in the darkness of space, had one weapon the unknown could never fully anticipate. Courage, ingenuity, and relentless will. The ship rocked again, systems warning of overload. But Elias smiled grimly. Hold on. This is only the beginning. Humanity fights, and humanity will survive. Outside the viewport, the shadow pulsed once more, massive and intelligent. And somewhere deep in the void, it watched, curious, patient, calculating. The collision course had begun, and humanity's story was about to be written in fire, courage, and stars. The Aurora's dawn shuddered violently, sparks flying across the bridge, but the crew held their ground. Elias Trent's eyes were sharp, scanning every display, every sensor, every movement of the massive shadow outside. It was learning, adapting, but so were they. Sir, the entity is analyzing our weapon patterns, Mara said, voice tight. Every shot we fire, it adjusts instantly. Direct attacks aren't working. Elias nodded. Then we change the rules. Humanity survives by thinking when others panic. Prepare the experimental pulse array. The pulse array was a risky weapon, unstable, untested, but it was their best chance. Engineers worked frantically to reroute energy from every system, diverting it to the ship's forward emitters. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but determination burned brighter than fear. Captain, power is unstable. One wrong move, we could lose the whole ship, the chief engineer warned. Elias's jaw tightened. Then make no wrong moves. Humanity adapts. Humanity survives. Focus. Outside, the shadow moved with terrifying precision. Its mass seemed to ripple like liquid metal, expanding and contracting, almost alive. It studied them, testing their limits, pushing their defenses. The countdown began. Seconds felt like hours. The crew held their breath as the pulse array charged. Energy crackled, filling the corridors with a humming vibration that made the air almost buzz with anticipation. 3, 2, 1, fire. Elias shouted. A brilliant beam of energy shot from the Aurora's dawn, striking the shadow head-on. The entity pulsed violently, recoiling slightly as the pulse disrupted its energy field. Sparks of light exploded across space, illuminating its massive, shifting form. The crew cheered, but Elias held up a hand. Not over yet. It's hurt. Yes, but it's not defeated. We have to keep moving, keep thinking. Mara's eyes darted across the display. Sir, it's adapting again. It's predicting our moves now. We need something it doesn't expect. Elias smiled grimly. Then we give it what it hasn't seen before, human unpredictability. The ship twisted, firing secondary rays, luring the shadow into patterns it didn't anticipate. Crew members coordinated like a single mind, moving, adjusting, predicting. Humanity's strength was not just in technology. It was in instinct, creativity, and courage. The shadow pulsed in response, thrashing violently as energy beams struck at weak points. The Aurora's dawn rocked, shield straining, alarms blaring, but the humans refused to falter. Every pulse, every shot, every maneuver was calculated. Every move was a statement. Humanity will fight. Humanity will survive. Minutes passed like lifetimes. The entity's massive form wavered, pulsing with erratic energy as it absorbed damage it hadn't anticipated. It was intelligent, yes, but human courage was something it could not fully calculate. Captain, it's weakening. Mara shouted, eyes wide. Elias nodded. Good. Keep up the pressure. Focus on its core structure. The crew fired relentlessly, improvising as the shadow flailed in space. It shifted, twisted, and recoiled, unable to fully comprehend the human's adaptability. Humanity was not predictable. Humanity was resourceful. Humanity fought with everything it had, and more. Finally, the entity gave one last pulse of energy, and then it paused. Silence fell over the bridge. The stars seemed calm again, but everyone knew better. This was a pause, a moment to breathe, not the end. Elias looked around at his crew, proud and exhausted. You see that? That's why humanity survives. Not because we are the strongest, but because we never stop. We never give up. Mara smiled, tears in her eyes. We did it for now. Elias nodded. Yes, For now. But this is only the beginning. Out here in the darkness, there will always be more, and humanity will always rise. Outside the viewport, the shadow pulsed faintly, slowly retreating into the void. It had learned something tonight. Humans were not easy prey. They were clever, relentless, and above all, brave. The storm had not ended, but for the first time, humanity had struck back and survived. The Aurora's dawn floated in the void, battered but intact. Crew members wiped sweat from their foreheads, breathing heavily, yet alert. They had survived the first attack, proving their courage. But Elias Trent knew the danger was far from over. "Sir, I don't like this quiet," Mara said, eyes glued to the sensors. "It's too calm." Elias's fingers tapped the console. "Exactly. It's thinking. Retreating doesn't mean it's gone. It's planning. And we need to be ready for whatever comes next." Outside the viewport, the shadow pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. Its massive, jagged form drifted in space, but every flicker of light and energy suggested calculation. It was learning, adjusting, preparing a new strategy. "Captain, new readings," the communications officer said. "It's sending out subspace waves. Something like a signal or lure." Elias frowned. A trap or a communication? Mara shook her head. Hard to tell. Whatever it is, it's smart. Way smarter than anything we've faced. The crew exchanged worried glances. Intelligence like this was terrifying because it meant the entity could anticipate them, manipulate the battlefield, and strike where they were weakest. "Prepare evasive maneuvers," Elias ordered. "Weapons at the ready, shields on full standby. And listen carefully. Every signal, every energy pulse may be a clue." The Aurora's dawn adjusted course, twisting and weaving through the void. The shadow pulsed in response, almost mocking, testing their reactions. It was a dangerous game, one that required precision, patience, and courage. Minutes stretched into tense hours. The entity's energy waves flickered unpredictably, hitting shields in bursts, forcing the crew to constantly adjust. It was a test of endurance, skill, and strategy. Humanity was strong, yes, but could they outthink something that seemed limitless? Suddenly, the entity unleashed a massive pulse, larger than anything before. Energy lanced toward the ship, shaking it violently. The shields groaned and alarms screamed. Crew members clutched consoles to stay upright, the hum of systems vibrating in their bones. "Divert all power to the aft shields. Evasive thrust now," Elias shouted. The ship twisted in space, narrowly avoiding the brunt of the attack. Sparks flew from consoles as the crew worked faster than they ever had, their hearts racing. "Sir, it's predicting our evasive patterns," Mara shouted, eyes wide. "We can't keep this up for long." Elias's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. Humanity could not match raw computational speed indefinitely, but humans had something the entity could never fully predict. Intuition, creativity, and the will to survive. "Then we change everything," Elias said. "Forget patterns. Forget predictability. We fight like humans, not machines." He issued rapid, unexpected commands. The ship twisted and turned in ways the entity had not anticipated, firing secondary pulses, deploying decoys, and using every trick they had learned. The shadow thrashed violently, massive tendrils of energy lashing into the void as it tried to adapt. The crew began to cheer, not from victory, but from hope. Humanity was proving something fundamental. Even against a foe beyond comprehension, courage and ingenuity could create openings, even in the face of overwhelming odds. "Captain, it's hesitating," Mara cried. "It's pausing, observing, maybe reconsidering its approach." Elias allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Good. Let it see us. Let it learn. And when it strikes again, we'll be ready. Not just to survive, but to fight back smarter than ever." Outside, the shadow pulsed faintly, almost like it was calculating, reconsidering. Elias knew it would return with greater force, more cunning strategies. But humanity had survived the first test. They had learned, adapted, and proved that courage and determination could challenge even the unknown. The void outside seemed calm again, but the tension remained. This was a battle not only of firepower, but of wits and will. The entity's gambit had begun, and humanity had just answered the first move. The storm was far from over, but for the first time, Elias felt a spark of confidence. Humanity could fight. Humanity could endure. Humanity could rise. And in the darkness of space, that spark was enough to light the way forward. The calm was deceptive. Though the Aurora's dawn seemed safe for a moment, the crew knew the storm had not passed. Elias Trent stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the shadow outside. Its massive, shifting form pulsed faintly, like a predator preparing to strike again. "Sir, it's changing course," Mara said, her fingers dancing over the console. "It's heading for the inner sectors of the ship. This isn't just an attack, it's a hunt." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we make it regret hunting us." He turned sharply toward the crew. "Prepare for the daring maneuver. All engines to maximum. Shields on adaptive mode. We're going to outsmart it, not just outlast it." The Aurora's dawn shuddered as engines roared to life, twisting the ship into a series of rapid, unpredictable maneuvers. Sparks flew as systems strained under the sudden demands, and alarms screamed warnings at every turn. Crew members held fast, following Elias's commands with precision born of training and trust. Mara's voice was tense but steady. "Captain, the entity, it's adapting. It's predicting our moves." Elias shook his head. "Good. Let it think it's in control. Then we do what it doesn't expect." The ship darted through the void, twisting in 3 dimensions at impossible angles. Outside, the shadow pulsed violently, energy radiating in massive waves. It lashed out, colliding with shields, sending tremors through the hull. Every strike tested the crew's endurance. Every impact reminded them how fragile humanity was in the vast darkness of space. Divert power to rear shields. Activate decoy drones. Fire pulse disruptors. Elias ordered. The crew moved like a single organism. The ship released small drones that emitted energy signatures similar to the vessel, confusing the entity momentarily. Pulse disruptors fired, forcing the shadow to shift erratically. The humans were improvising, thinking faster than the entity could calculate. Mara gasped. "Sir, it's recoiling. It's confused." Elias's lips curved in a grim smile. "Exactly. Now's our chance. Full forward thrust. Ram the vector through its flank. It won't expect human unpredictability twice." Engines roared as the Aurora's dawn surged forward in a daring move. The ship twisted, weaving between tendrils of energy and pulses from the shadow. The entity flared violently, releasing a wave of energy that slammed into space, but the humans held course. Inside the ship, the crew braced for impact, hearts racing. Every member knew the danger, every decision critical. Yet, amidst the fear, determination burned brighter than ever. Humanity had survived the impossible before, and they could do it again. The ship struck the shadow at a precise angle, energy sparks erupting as vessel met entity in a clash of force. The shadow pulsed violently, stunned by the unexpected maneuver. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. "Report." Elias barked. Mara's fingers flew across the console. "It's destabilizing. The flank is weakened. We can push it back." Elias nodded sharply. "Then we do it. Humanity doesn't retreat. Humanity doesn't surrender. We fight." The crew unleashed a coordinated barrage of energy pulses, missiles, and experimental weapons. The shadow thrashed, massive tendrils writhing, but the humans pressed forward, exploiting the weakness they had created. Minutes passed like hours. Sweat dripped, alarms blared, and the ship groaned under the strain. But slowly, surely, the massive entity began to retreat, its pulses weakening, its form distorting as it withdrew into the darkness. Elias allowed himself a deep breath. "Well done. That was daring. Humanity survives because we take risks, because we fight smart, because we never back down." Mara smiled faintly, exhaustion clear in her eyes. "For now, but it will come back." Elias nodded. "Yes, but each encounter teaches us. Each battle strengthens us. Humanity adapts, and we will rise again, no matter what the universe throws at us." Outside the viewport, the shadow receded into the darkness, silent, patient, and far from defeated. But the humans had shown their strength, not just with weapons, but with courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding will to survive. The storm had not ended, but humanity had taken the first decisive step. For a moment, the Aurora's dawn seemed victorious. The shadow had retreated, leaving the crew with a rare sense of relief. But Elias Trent knew better. In the void of space, silence was rarely peace. It was waiting, watching, planning. "Captain, readings," Mara said, voice tense. "The entity, it's not gone. It's gathering energy much more than before. It's preparing a counterstrike." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we brace. Humanity survives because we face the impossible head-on. Alert every station, shields, weapons, engines. Prepare for full engagement." The void outside pulsed ominously. Energy waves rippled through space as the shadow reemerged, larger and more massive than before. Its form twisted, expanding in ways that defied comprehension. Every flicker of light, every tendril of energy, radiated raw power. "Sir, it's accelerating towards us," Mara shouted. Elias's eyes narrowed. "Hold steady. This is it. Humanity will not break." The Aurora's dawn shuddered violently as the shadow unleashed a barrage of energy pulses. Shields groaned under the assault. Warning alarms screaming through the ship. Crew members clutched consoles and walls to stay upright. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the hum of the ship's engines turned into a roar. "Divert all power to forward shields. Fire pulse disruptors. Deploy decoys," Elias commanded. The crew responded like a single organism. Every hand, every mind, every decision focused on survival. Humanity's strength was not in brute force alone. It was in strategy, adaptability, and courage under pressure. The entity pulsed again, massive energy waves crashing against the shields. The ship groaned, systems overloaded, but humans refused to surrender. Each pulse, each strike, each maneuver tested their limits, and they met it with relentless will. "Captain, I think it's targeting weak points," Mara said, eyes wide. "We need to anticipate its attack." Elias nodded. "Then we don't just react. We predict, improvise, and strike where it doesn't expect. Humanity fights differently. We're not machines. We're creative, clever, unstoppable." The Aurora's dawn twisted in impossible angles, dodging, weaving, counterattacking with precision strikes. Energy pulses from the experimental weapons lit up the void, blasting at the shadow's core. Sparks and light danced across space as humans challenged the unknown. Minutes stretched, each second a battle of wits and endurance. The shadow thrashed, pulsing violently, energy rippling in waves of destructive force. But the humans adapted, responding with ingenuity and determination, turning near disaster into opportunity. "Captain, it's weakening. The core is exposed," Mara cried. Elias's eyes gleamed. "All weapons focus fire. Humanity will not be defeated. Humanity survives." The crew unleashed a coordinated barrage, exploiting every opening, every weakness. The shadow pulsed violently, screaming in energy and light, before finally recoiling and retreating into the void. Silence followed, heavy and tense, but different this time. Elias allowed himself a slow breath. "We survived. Again. And each time we survive, we grow stronger, smarter, braver." Mara smiled faintly. "For now, but it will come back." Elias nodded. "Yes. And when it does, humanity will be ready. We will never surrender, never back down, never lose our courage." Outside the viewport, the shadow faded into darkness, massive and patient. But humanity had shown that even the unknown, the impossible, the terrifying could be met with bravery and ingenuity. The counterstrike had been answered. Humanity had endured, and the storm was far from over. The void was quiet, too quiet. The Aurora's dawn floated, battered but alive, its crew exhausted yet alert. Elias Trent stood on the bridge, staring at the darkness beyond the viewport. The shadow had retreated, but he knew it was only preparing its final move. "Sir, readings," Mara said, tense. "It's gathering massive energy, far more than before. This time, it's not testing us. It's aiming to destroy." Elias clenched his fists. Then humanity must give everything we have. All systems, weapons, shields. Focus on survival. Focus on courage. This is the final stand. The shadow returned, larger, more terrifying, radiating energy like a living star. Its massive form twisted, tendrils lashing into space, waves of power distorting reality itself. The ship trembled as the first pulse hit. Alarms screamed, sparks flew, and the hum of engines roared like thunder. Brace for impact! Elias shouted. Divert everything to shields. Weapons. Prepare for full assault. The crew worked like a single organism. Engineers rerouted energy, recalibrating shields to maximum. Weapons officers fired experimental arrays, missiles, and energy pulses. Navigators twisted the ship in impossible maneuvers, avoiding tendrils of destructive energy. Sir, it's adapting faster than ever, Mara said. We may not survive a direct hit. Elias's eyes burned with determination. Then we do the unexpected. Humanity survives by being unpredictable, by thinking beyond limits, by refusing to surrender. The Aurora's dawn surged forward in a daring move. The ship twisted, fired, and released decoys, creating confusion for the shadow. It pulsed violently, striking at the decoys, but the humans had already changed course. Now, full energy discharged to the core, Elias commanded. The crew fired everything they had at the entity's core. Pulses of light and energy collided with the shadow, sending waves through the void. The ship shook violently, but the humans held firm. For a moment, it seemed as if nothing could break the shadow. But then a change. Its pulses slowed, tendrils flailing, energy dispersing. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and relentless were overcoming the impossible. Core destabilized. It's retreating, Mara shouted. Elias allowed himself a breath. Hold steady. Humanity survives, but never forget, the universe is full of challenges. We adapt, we endure, and we rise. Outside, the shadow pulsed one last time, then receded into the darkness, defeated for now. The Aurora's dawn floated among the stars, battered, scarred, but alive. The crew cheered softly, exhaustion and relief mixing with pride. Elias looked at each of them, his voice calm but proud. This is why humanity endures. Not because we are the strongest, but because we never give up, never surrender, and never stop fighting. Mara smiled faintly. We did it. Together. Elias nodded. Yes, together. And as long as we have courage, as long as we fight, humanity will always rise. No matter the darkness, no matter the storm. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport. Quiet now, peaceful, but full of infinite possibilities. The storm had passed, for now, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth. In the vast, cold darkness of space, courage, ingenuity, and willpower could carve survival out of the impossible. The Aurora's dawn sailed on, a beacon of human spirit, ready for the next challenge. And somewhere in the void, the shadow waited, knowing humanity had survived, and that made them even more formidable. The final stand was won, but the story of humanity in the stars had only just begun.